The photographer adjusted his lens for the third time, positioning our family around Mom's prized rose garden for what she called our annual success portrait. My sister Jessica stood confidently in her medical residency scrubs, while my brother David wore his law firm's monogrammed polo shirt. I'd chosen a simple black sweater, hoping to blend into the background of another family celebration of their achievements. "Jessica, tell us about your surgery rotation," Mom prompted while the photographer checked his lighting. "Dr. Patterson says you're the most promising resident they've had in years." Jessica beamed, launching into details about her latest procedures. The family gathered around her like she was describing a cure for cancer rather than routine appendectomies. Dad nodded approvingly, already envisioning her future practice. "And David, the Morrison case verdict?" Dad asked, turning to my brother with obvious pride. "Guilty on all counts. The judge said it was one of the most thorough prosecutions he'd seen from a junior attorney." David straightened his shoulders, basking in familial admiration. I stood slightly apart, checking my phone while they discussed David's courtroom victories and Jessica's medical triumphs. 3 missed calls from Fortune magazine's editorial team, probably finalizing details for next week's photo shoot. "What about Maya?" the photographer asked kindly. "What's your profession?" An uncomfortable silence settled over the group. Mom's smile faltered slightly as she searched for a diplomatic way to explain her youngest daughter's career. "Maya's still finding herself," Mom said carefully. "She does computer things from home." "She just plays on computers," Aunt Linda whispered to her husband, not quite quietly enough. "No real job, no office, no colleagues. We're not sure what she actually does all day." I'd stopped trying to explain my work to my family 2 years ago, after the disastrous Thanksgiving when I'd attempted to describe my role as Chief Technology Officer of Neuralink Dynamics. Dad had listened politely before suggesting I consider a more stable career path like Jessica and David chose. The irony wasn't lost on me. Jessica would spend the next decade paying off medical school debt while earning a resident salary. David worked 80-hour weeks at a mid-sized firm, hoping to make partner someday. Meanwhile, I'd built a company from my college dorm room that was now valued at $847 million. "Maya works in technology," I offered quietly, hoping to move past the topic. "Technology," Uncle Robert repeated with barely concealed skepticism. "Like computer repair?" "Something like that," I replied, not having the energy to explain artificial intelligence neural networks or the proprietary algorithms that had revolutionized how Fortune 500 companies process data. The photographer began snapping photos, capturing what would become this year's holiday cards. 3 successful children, the doctor, the lawyer, and the one who played on computers. "Everyone say, achievement," the photographer called out. We smiled dutifully while I thought about the irony of that word. Jessica's achievement was completing medical school like thousands of others each year. David's achievement was winning a case any competent prosecutor could have handled. My achievement was building technology that processed over $2.3 billion in daily transactions for companies across 6 continents. But my work happened behind screens, in code repositories and server farms invisible to people who measured success by scrubs and business cards. "Let's do one more with just the professional children," Mom suggested, gesturing for Jessica and David to step forward. I stepped back automatically, accustomed to being excluded from discussions about real careers. While they posed, I opened my email and found the final proof from Fortune's art director. The cover of next week's issue featuring my photo under the headline, "The Algorithm Architect: How Maya Chin Built the Future of Data Processing." The accompanying article detailed Neuralink Dynamics' trajectory from startup to industry leader, my recognition as the youngest CTO in Silicon Valley history, and the $2.1 billion acquisition offer we'd recently declined. The reporter had interviewed former MIT professors who called my neural network innovations paradigm-shifting, and industry leaders who credited my algorithms with revolutionizing their operations. "Maya, what are you doing over there?" Jessica called out. "Don't you want to be in the family photos?" I looked up from my phone, where Forbes notifications were piling up about their 30 under 30 feature scheduled to run simultaneously with the Fortune cover story. Both magazines had spent months verifying my company's impact, interviewing clients, and documenting the technology that my family dismissed as playing on computers. "Just checking work emails," I said, slipping the phone back into my pocket. On Sunday. David shook his head. Maya, you need boundaries between work and personal life. That's the problem with these computer jobs. No structure. I nodded politely while mentally calculating that my computer job had generated more revenue this quarter than his law firm would see in 5 years. Monday morning brought the usual rhythm of board meetings, product development reviews and strategic planning sessions. I sat in Neuralink Dynamics' glass-walled conference room overlooking Silicon Valley, discussing our Q4 expansion with department heads whose collective experience spanned Google, Apple, and Tesla. The European deployment exceeded projections by 23%, our VP of International Operations reported. Deutsche Bank wants to expand our implementation across their entire infrastructure. I nodded, reviewing quarterly numbers that would make David's law firm partners weep with envy. Neuralink had grown from 3 employees in my Stanford dorm to 847 staff members across 12 countries. Our AI-driven data processing systems handled everything from medical diagnoses to financial fraud detection. Fortune's fact-checkers called again, my assistant Jennifer mentioned during our brief break. They want to verify the revenue figures one more time before publication. Which figures? The $340 million in annual recurring revenue and the $2.1 billion acquisition valuation. I pulled up our audited financials, remembering yesterday's family photo session where Mom had struggled to explain what I did for work. The same woman who'd questioned my career choices now had a daughter whose company processed data for 67% of the Fortune 500. Tuesday's family group chat brought updates about Jessica's latest surgery and David's upcoming court case. The conversation buzzed with excitement about their achievements while carefully avoiding any mention of my work, as if acknowledging it might somehow legitimize what they saw as an extended phase of playing video games. Family dinner Sunday. Mom announced. Jessica's bringing her attending physician and David's firm partner might join us. Great networking opportunities. I stared at the message, thinking about the networking dinner I'd attended last week with Elon Musk and the CEOs of 3 Fortune 100 companies. But that kind of networking didn't translate into family dinner conversation the way Jessica's hospital connections did. Wednesday brought a call from my former MIT advisor, Dr. Sarah Chin. No relation despite the shared surname. Maya, I wanted to congratulate you before the Fortune article drops. The entire computer science department is buzzing about your neural network innovations. You've essentially solved problems we thought would take decades to crack. Thank you, Dr. Chin. MIT's foundation made all of this possible. Nonsense. Your thesis work was already groundbreaking. What you've built since then. Maya, you're redefining what's possible in artificial intelligence. The medical applications alone will save thousands of lives. I thought about Jessica, who spent her days performing procedures that helped one patient at a time. Meanwhile, our medical AI systems assisted in over 12,000 diagnoses daily across hospitals worldwide, reducing misdiagnosis rates by 34%. Thursday's Stanford Alumni magazine arrived at my parents' house, featuring a cover story about young innovators changing the world. My photo appeared alongside 4 other graduates whose companies had achieved unicorn status before age 30. Mom called that evening. Maya, there's a magazine here with your picture on it. Is this real? It's real, Mom. But you look so professional. And they're calling you a technology pioneer, and mentioning billions of dollars. I don't understand. I tried explaining once again. Artificial intelligence neural networks, the algorithms that powered everything from their bank's fraud detection to the medical systems Jessica used daily. Mom listened politely before asking if I'd considered law school as a backup plan. Friday brought the final interview with Fortune's senior technology reporter, a woman who'd covered Silicon Valley for 15 years. Maya, in researching this story, I've spoken with CEOs who credit your technology with saving their companies millions annually. Yet you maintain an incredibly low public profile. Is that intentional? I prefer focusing on the work rather than the publicity. Your family doesn't seem to understand what you've accomplished. How does that affect you? I paused, considering how to explain that my parents still asked when I'd get a real job, while Fortune 500 executives sought my advice on digital transformation. Family dynamics are complicated. Success means different things to different people. Your sister's a medical resident, your brother's a junior attorney. Both traditional paths to respect and recognition. You've built a company worth nearly $1 billion, but they see it as less legitimate. Why do you think that is? Technology work is abstract to people outside the industry. Jessica saves lives in an operating room. That's tangible. David argues cases in courtrooms. That's visible. I write algorithms that process data invisibly. The impact is enormous, but it happens behind screens. Saturday night, I reviewed the final proofs for both Fortune and Forbes magazines. The Fortune cover featured a photo from their studio shoot. Professional lighting, confident pose. The headline declaring me one of tech's most influential young leaders. The Forbes article detailed our company's valuation, my personal net worth, and the industry transformation we'd achieved. Both magazines would hit newsstands Monday morning. The same Monday as our family dinner, where Mom planned to introduce Jessica's attending physician and David's firm partner as examples of real success. Sunday's family dinner unfolded with clockwork precision at Romano's, the upscale restaurant Mom reserved for special occasions. Dr. Patricia Williams, Jessica's attending physician, commanded immediate respect from the entire table. David's mentor, senior partner Robert Hayes from Caldwell and Associates, regaled everyone with stories of high-profile cases and six-figure settlements. I sat quietly, wearing the same black sweater from last week's photo session, while the adults discussed meaningful careers and professional achievement. The conversation flowed around me like I was furniture, occasionally pausing when someone remembered to include the family member who played on computers. Maya, what exactly do you do again? Dr. Williams asked politely during dessert, having exhausted small talk with the actual professionals at the table. I work in technology, I replied, cutting into my tiramisu while mentally preparing for the usual follow-up questions about computer repair or website design. Technology's important, she said kindly. My hospital's been upgrading our systems lately. Always need people to help with the computers. Mom beamed approvingly. Maya's always been good with computers. We keep hoping she'll find something more stable, maybe work for a real company. I nearly choked on my dessert. Neuralink Dynamics employed nearly 900 people and had offices in 12 countries. But apparently we weren't a real company because we didn't advertise on television or have storefronts. What kind of company do you work for? Robert Hayes inquired, probably wondering if I processed insurance claims or did data entry. A technology startup, I said simply. Oh. His tone conveyed everything. Startups weren't serious businesses, just extended college projects for people avoiding real work. Well, everyone has to start somewhere. David started as an intern before working his way up to real cases. David nodded sagely. Maya, when you're ready to get serious about your career, I could ask around. There are always openings for administrative assistants at tech companies. You could use your computer skills in a legitimate business setting. I checked my phone discreetly, noting 17 missed calls from Fortune's publicity department. Tomorrow morning's media blitz would include interviews on CNBC, Bloomberg, and CNN about the cover story. By afternoon, every major news outlet would be discussing the algorithm architect, who'd revolutionized data processing. Maya, put that phone away, Mom scolded. We're having dinner with distinguished guests. Dr. Williams and Robert Hayes nodded approvingly at Mom's correction. In their world, checking phones during dinner violated professional etiquette. They had no way of knowing that my phone held requests for interviews from the same financial networks they watched religiously. You know what Maya needs? Aunt Linda suggested. Structure. A real office with real colleagues. This working from home thing is just an excuse to avoid responsibility. I thought about Neuralink's headquarters in Palo Alto, where 400 engineers, data scientists, and business development professionals worked in a space designed by the same architects who'd built Google's campus. But explaining our office wouldn't matter. The family had decided I worked from my bedroom in pajamas. Maybe after the holidays I could help Maya update her resume, David offered generously. You need to position yourself for real opportunities, not just this computer hobby. The waiter approached with the check as my phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Fortune cover just went live online. Twitter's exploding. Hashtag 30 under 30 is trending. I glanced at the message, then at my family discussing my career intervention like I wasn't sitting right there. Actually, I said quietly, I think my career might be exactly where it needs to be. Tomorrow morning they'd understand why. Monday morning arrived with chaos. My phone started ringing at 5:47 a.m. with interview requests from every major news network. By 6:30, Neuralink Dynamics stock had jumped 12% in pre-market trading based on the Fortune cover story alone. The first family call came at 7:15 a.m. Mom's voice trembled with confusion. Maya, there's a magazine at the grocery store with your picture on the cover. It says you're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. This has to be a mistake. It's not a mistake, Mom. But you don't have a real job. You work from home doing computer things. I was walking into Bloomberg Studios for a live interview when Dad called. Maya, Jessica's attending physician just called. He saw you on the news. She wants to know if your medical AI system could help their hospital. By noon, the family group chat had exploded. Cousins, aunts, uncles. Everyone suddenly remembered they had a family member in technology. David sent a private message. Maya, I had no idea. I'm sorry. Could we talk about potential legal partnerships? The requests poured in throughout the day. Investment opportunities, business partnerships, speaking engagements. Jessica called during her lunch break, her voice subdued. Maya, I keep seeing your name everywhere. CNN, Forbes, The Wall Street Journal. I don't understand how we didn't know. You never asked, I replied gently. That evening, Mom called one final time. Maya, I owe you an apology. We completely misunderstood what you do. I accepted gracefully, but the damage was done. Recognition had come from external sources, Fortune magazine, CNN, Bloomberg, not from the people who should have known me best.